What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video and happy Pride Month. This is a very special video because in honor of Pride Month, I'm going to be talking about my LGBTQ plus journey. Well, it's more of a sexual orientation journey than LGBTQ plus, or maybe it's a coming out video. I don't know. It's partially a coming out video because many of you may or may not realize that I now identify partially different to what I had previously identified with. But here's the kicker. I'm going to be coming out towards the end of the video, and we're going to get there by going through my LGBTQ plus / sexual orientation journey. What that means is I'm going to tell you which sexual orientation I used to identify as and explain each of them because some of you need an education. But before we get into it, I just want to say, if you haven't already, please check out my LGBTQ plus TikTok compilation. It's a collection of almost all of my LGBTQ plus TikToks I've made since my first coming out video on TikTok. So be sure to check it out after the video. And with that out of the way, let's dive into it. So way back in 2020, I started questioning my supposed heterosexuality and realized I may not be straight. So I decided to do some research into sexualities that may fit me. I found one, and on National Coming Out Day, which is October 11th, in the year 2020, I came out as polysexual. Polysexuality is a sexual attraction to many but not all genders. Quick side note, this is not to be confused with the similarly named polyamory, which is a type of relationship in which one or more of the participants are consensually, romantically, or sexually involved with more than one individual at a time. I had identified as polysexual for a little while, about 6 months. At the end of those 6 months, I had questioned my sexuality again, so I hit the research books, or in this case, the web. Now, I don't exactly remember when, but I believe it was around this time when I remembered that I had a crush on a guy when I was in high school. I won't name him, but he was a classmate of mine. The reason why it took me so long to remember and realize that I had an attraction to guys is because I was a devout Catholic who believed any sort of attraction to the same sex or gender was a sin. In other words, internalized homophobia. Therefore, I repressed or at least tried to ignore my feelings for him. Now, I stopped believing that same-sex attraction was a sin later on, not to mention the fact that I'm not Catholic anymore. Another reason was I kind of forgot. Anyway, my remembering helped me in figuring out which sexual orientation fit me best. And I found one, and on April 5th, 2021, came out as omnisexual. Omnisexuality is a sexual attraction to all sexes and genders wherein gender plays a role in one's attraction. This is similar to pansexuality, which is a sexual attraction to anyone regardless of gender, meaning that gender doesn't play a role in the pansexual's attraction. I've identified as omnisexual for the longest until I started experiencing something again. I started to feel that maybe omnisexuality doesn't fit me, and even at times question whether I truly was queer or lying to myself about it when I'm straight. So I yet again hit the web to do some research. I narrowed my search down to omnisexuality, bisexuality, and something new I came across. Not new in terms of creation, but rather something I hadn't considered, called abrosexuality, which is fluid sexuality or when one's sexuality fluctuates. For example, one can be pansexual one day, the next gay, the next straight, the next asexual. It should be noted that abrosexuals experience this fluidity at different rates of time. It can fluctuate between hours, days, weeks, or even years. Some abrosexuals do have a fixed schedule for this, but not all of them do. It was then that I realized what I was experiencing wasn't me questioning my sexuality, but rather some sort of fluidity. So abrosexuality did make a little bit of sense, but it didn't quite fit me since I don't feel like I experience fluidity as often as abrosexuals do. So I kept looking. I did eventually come across omniflux, which is the sexual and or romantic attraction to all sexes and genders with varying intensity. And I also identified as omniflux, but it didn't last for two reasons. One, I was still struggling with identifying with omnisexuality. And two, I don't feel like my fluid attraction is based on percentages, which can be used to express varying intensities of attraction. So I kept looking. I stuck with omnisexuality for the time being and decided to look at videos on omnisexuality, bisexuality, and abrosexuality. Then a breakthrough emerged. While I was looking through some videos on YouTube, I came across a video about something called the bicycle. What's the bicycle, you may ask? It is a term used by bisexuals to refer to a sort of shift between attractions to different genders. In other words, fluid attraction. When I found out about the bicycle, I felt that made a lot of sense for how I felt with my attraction. So I looked into bisexuality more and found some TikTok compilations about bisexuality and omnisexuality. And I found that I relate a lot to the bisexual TikToks. I started to realize that maybe I'm bisexual. I also want to clarify that relating to one LGBTQ plus TikTok does not automatically mean you're that identity. It may help with figuring out what sexual orientation or even gender identity you may be, but it doesn't automatically make you that identity. So after further consideration, I finally decided on what I identify as. Leading up to this, I am bisexual and omnisexual. Man, you can't even see it all. All right, there we go. I'm also gonna take this off really quick. Hold on. It's almost summer and it's yeah. Anyway, I haven't quite let go of the omnisexual label, which is what I meant when I said that I now identify partially different to what I previously identified. Before I get into the why, I first need to explain what bisexuality is. Yes, I know this is the most well-known out of all the sexualities I covered, but I'm still going to explain it anyway because there may be others who do not know what bisexuality is. Bisexuality has many different definitions, but the one that I really like and resonate with is this one. Sexual attraction to genders similar and different to one's own gender. So why do I identify as both bisexual and omnisexual? Let me start off by saying that I don't have to explain why, but I will anyway. I feel they by definition both fit my attraction, especially bisexuality, since I go through fluid attraction via the bicycle. I know I'm attracted to all genders, including men, albeit with a preference which I will not disclose. And I also feel that by also identifying as bi, it'll be easier to explain when coming out to those who aren't as educated about the LGBTQ plus community and sexualities. I know it's not necessary for me to make it easier on them and that I can identify with whatever and however I want, but that's just how I feel. I know some of you mean well, but yeah, that being said, that may change in the years to come. I may identify with one sexual orientation or the other. Though I'm leaning towards bisexuality. I don't know, but we'll see. Also, if you came from watching my LGBTQ plus TikTok compilation video, or even if you follow me on TikTok since late 2020, this entire journey would definitely not have been a surprise to you. Anyway, that's where we are on the LGBTQ plus / sexual orientation journey. It's not quite the end, as it may change, nor will it ever end. Possibly. I do want to end this video with some LGBTQ plus TikTok. I do want to end this video with some LGBTQ plus affirmations. Well, I don't know if they're affirmations, but I do want to say some things. Just because I may identify as only bisexual in the future does not mean omnisexuality is non-existent. I know there's going to be some people that have said and will continue to say that omnisexuality doesn't exist, but I'm here to tell you that omnisexuality is very real. If you identify as omnisexual, you're just as real as I am. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. This was more like a debunking the myth that omnisexuality is fake, but I digress. If you realize you were LGBTQ plus or just not straight as late as I did, I was almost 26. That's okay. Some of us, like myself, realized a little later than we hoped. It doesn't make us any less part of the LGBTQ plus community. If you're questioning your sexuality, take your time. There's no need to rush things. Do your research and explore which identities you resonate with. And lastly, if you haven't had any sort of experience with any gender you're attracted to, whether you're bi or omni or any other sexual orientation you identify with, you're still that sexual orientation you identify as. Your experience or lack thereof does not dictate your sexual attraction. Only you yourself. And that concludes this video. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button and like the video. If you have any questions about this video, please ask away in the comment section and I'll try to answer your question. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel as well. If you want to watch another video, you can click this video right here. Thank you so much for watching. Have a happy Pride Month and I'll see you next time.